Between the inhale and the exhale, there is a silence too vast to name. Most people pass through it without noticing, a subtle doorway that opens and closes thousands of times each day. Yet within that pause, life itself is waiting. When you breathe in, the universe enters form. When you breathe out, the universe dissolves again. But between these two movements, there is something still, something that does not come or go. Stay there for just a heartbeat. You will feel the quiet listening of existence itself, the space that does not ask to be filled, the presence that does not need to move. Here, time forgets to flow. Thought loses its voice, and what remains is the gentle pulse of being, the breath behind all breaths. You have been looking for peace, for meaning, for love, but they have always lived in the same sacred space between one breath and the next. Let the breath slow. Let it stop trying. Let yourself fall into the pause and discover that the silence between breaths has been breathing you all along. The breath is the rhythm of life, rising, falling, a wave that never truly begins or ends. But between those waves, there lies a still shore, a space so subtle that only silence can enter. You have known this place before. It greets you each time your lungs rest, each time your body forgets to move. It is not absence. It is the fullness of being before sound becomes song, before motion becomes form. Like the pause between two notes of music, it is this quiet interval that makes the melody possible. Without it, sound would be chaos. Without the space between breaths, life would have nowhere to echo. Yet the mind fears this pause. It rushes to inhale again, to exhale again, believing that if it stops, it will disappear. But the universe does not vanish in the silence. It only remembers itself. Each inhale creates the world. Each exhale dissolves it. And between them, the cosmos pauses, not to rest, but to remember its own eternity. Stay with that pause. Notice how it expands without effort, how it glows with a light that needs no source. You are not apart from it. You are made of it. It is the unseen doorway through which awareness enters form, and through which it returns. When you linger there, even for a single breath, the boundaries of you begin to soften. The breath breathes itself, the silence hears itself, and you are no longer the one listening. You are the listening itself. This is not philosophy. It is direct experience. The eternal pulse behind every heartbeat, the golden thread weaving through every inhale, every exhale, and every sacred space between. There is a reason the silence between breaths feels uncomfortable. It is not the silence itself that frightens us. It is what disappears inside it. The moment the breath stops, the familiar rhythm of doing collapses. There is no movement to hold on to, no sound to confirm our existence. In that pause, something ancient trembles, the small self that believes, I must keep breathing to stay alive. But have you noticed? Even when you forget to breathe, life continues. The heart still beats, cells still renew, the earth still spins through space. Something greater than you has always been breathing you. The mind is terrified of stillness because stillness exposes its illusion of control. It whispers, if I stop, I die. And so it fills the silence with noise, thoughts, plans, memories, distractions. It builds endless motion just to avoid the still point. We scroll through screens, chase goals, talk, fix, prove, explain, anything but pause. Because in that pause, The identity we've been protecting starts to fade like mist in the morning light. The silence between breaths is not death to life. It is death to the illusion of separation. The ego calls that death. The soul calls it home. That is why silence feels frightening. It's not emptiness. It's truth returning. Humanity has built an entire civilization around escaping stillness. We glorify activity, achievement, progress. We measure our worth by how much we do. Even our breathing reflects that addiction. We inhale greedily, as if to possess life, and exhale reluctantly, as if afraid to let it go. We have forgotten that between these two movements lies the most sacred moment, the effortless rest of existence itself. We chase after constant movement because silence feels like nothingness, and nothingness threatens the ego's survival. But when everything stops, for a breath, for a second, what remains is not nothing. It is everything, without the noise that hides it. Imagine music without silence. Imagine a sentence without spaces. Meaning itself would vanish. In the same way, life needs its pauses. The breath pauses to renew itself. The heart pauses between beats. The mind pauses between thoughts. That pause is where creation resets, where the unseen rearranges itself into the next moment of being. When you resist that pause, you tire your soul. You suffocate not from lack of air, but from lack of surrender. When you allow the pause, you touch the timeless. A space where you don't need to prove, don't need to fix, don't need to become. Every exhale is a small death. Every inhale, a rebirth. And between them, a holy stillness. A moment where neither life nor death exists, because both have dissolved into the same source. If you can rest in that space without trying to change it, you will begin to understand what the mystics call freedom. Freedom is not the endless movement of choice. It is the quiet knowing that you were never separate from what breathes all things. Try this. Sit quietly. Breathe in, deeply but gently. Then exhale, letting everything fall away. And before the next inhale comes, pause. Do not try to hold the breath. Do not wait for it to return. Simply be in the pause. Notice the slight trembling in the mind. The impulse to do something, to fill the space. That trembling is the fear. Let it tremble. Let it be seen. Then look deeper. Under the fear, there is a stillness untouched. It is soft, luminous, and vast beyond thought. That is the real you. You are not afraid of silence. You are afraid of losing who you think you are. But the moment you allow silence to open, you discover that what is lost was never you. It was only noise. The silence between breaths is not a void waiting to be filled. It is the heart of the universe, pulsing quietly behind all existence. And once you taste that silence, you begin to see. You were never the one breathing. You were the breath and the pause and the infinite awareness holding both. When you rest in that pause, something beautiful happens. The breath becomes slower, the mind softer. Awareness begins to breathe itself. This is the beginning of surrender, the return from effort to ease, from doing to being, from fear to presence. The silence you once resisted becomes your sanctuary. It no longer feels like death. It feels like love. Because love, in its purest form, is spaciousness. The infinite willingness to let all things arise and dissolve without holding on. That is what the silence between breaths teaches, to love existence without grasping it, to live without clinging to life. The silence between breaths feels like death to the ego, but it is life remembering itself beyond name. To enter the space between breaths is not to seek silence, but to stop resisting it. It is not a technique, not another act of control. It is a remembering, a soft returning to what has never left. You cannot force your way into the gap. You can only relax into it, the way a wave relaxes into the stillness of the ocean that holds it. Begin with a single breath. Inhale softly, without grasping. Let the air enter you as a friend, not as something you must master. Then exhale completely, letting the breath leave as it wishes, without effort, without hesitation. And when the breath has gone, before the next one comes, do not rush. That moment, that delicate stillness, is the gap. It is not an emptiness to escape, but a homecoming to the formless. Stay there, lightly. Do not try to hold it, for holding turns grace into effort. Do not analyze it, for thinking turns mystery into memory. Simply rest in the pause, like a feather resting on the wind. When you are present enough, you begin to sense a subtle shift, the movement of awareness from the breath to the space around it. At first, the mind may ask, "What am I supposed to feel?" But the truth is, you are not supposed to feel anything. You are supposed to become the feeling itself. The gap is not an object of attention. It is attention itself, before it divides into subject and object. This is the still point, the center that neither moves nor rests, because it is everywhere at once. The mystics of India called it kumbhaka, the sacred pause where life holds its breath. Zen calls it the gap before thought arises. Taoism calls it the return to the uncarved block. But all point to the same truth. The place where being remembers itself before becoming anything. At first, you may notice a quiet anxiety. The mind will whisper, "Breathe now, or you'll stop." But if you simply wait, you will see the breath returns by itself. You were never the one making it happen. The pause does not interrupt life. It reveals life. When you surrender control, the breath begins to breathe you, naturally, rhythmically, perfectly. You move from doing the breath to being the breath. You realize the air that enters and leaves has never been separate from the space it moves through. It was always the same essence, dancing between form and formlessness. And you, too, are that dance. Thought is like breath in the realm of the mind, each idea arising, dissolving, pausing. Between two thoughts, there is also a gap. The more you rest in the pause between breaths, the more you begin to feel the same pause between thoughts. In that pause, you are not the thinker. You are the luminous awareness that watches thought come and go, the same way the sky watches clouds drift by. When the gap widens, thought loses its authority. Emotions lose their gravity. You find yourself standing in the middle of everything, yet untouched by anything. That is the taste of liberation. If you stay with it, you will feel a presence that cannot be described. It does not move, yet everything moves within it. It does not breathe, yet every breath arises from it. It is still, but its stillness is alive, vibrant, pulsating with quiet intelligence. When you touch that stillness, even for a moment, you touch the unchanging center of existence. And something in you sighs in relief, as if remembering, Ah, I am home. At that still point, the boundary between inner and outer dissolves. You realize that what you call breath is not air moving in and out of a body. It is the universe exchanging itself through you. When you inhale, the cosmos becomes you. When you exhale, you become the cosmos again. And in between, there is no separation at all, only the eternal witnessing of one life flowing through infinite forms. This is where meditation ceases to be a practice and becomes a recognition. You are never outside the divine rhythm. You do not need a mountain cave to enter this gap. You only need remembrance. Between one breath and another, pause. Before you answer a question, pause. Before you step into the next task, pause. That small moment of stillness is the same infinite gap appearing in the middle of ordinary life. The more you honor these micro pauses, the more life aligns itself with its original rhythm. Soon, you begin to move not from reaction, but from awareness. You speak from silence, act from stillness, breathe from the heart of existence itself. Stay long enough in that still point, and you may notice time seems to fade. There is only the hum of existence, the vibration of being. The moment expands until there is no before or after, only an endless now. This is not imagination. It is the natural perception of awareness, when it is not fragmented by thought. In that gap, you are not a body breathing. You are the breath of the cosmos, feeling itself through form. The still point is not a place. It is what remains when the search ends. When you linger in the space between breaths, you touch the still point where time forgets to move. When the breath no longer feels like something you do, something miraculous begins to happen. Breathing becomes transparent, and what remains is the stillness behind it. This stillness is not something you create. It was here long before the first breath was born. It is not a reward for effort. It is what effort dissolves into when there is nothing left to seek. The space between breaths is the doorway, but what lies beyond the doorway is the silence that breathes you. Close your eyes. Notice how each inhale and exhale is surrounded by stillness, a silent witness that never moves even as breath rises and falls. Now, sense this. The breath is not moving through the stillness. The stillness itself is moving as the breath. It is like a vast ocean sending gentle ripples across its surface. The ripples come and go, but the ocean never stops being itself. In this realization, you begin to feel that breathing is not a personal act. It is existence pulsing through form, a cosmic tide expressing itself as you. For most of life, you have lived as the one who breathes, the one who tries, controls, achieves, fears. But in this quiet revelation, that someone begins to fade. You exhale, and the idea of me exhales with it. You pause, and for a timeless moment, there is no one left to do anything. You are not the one breathing anymore. You are being breathed by the same intelligence that moves galaxies and tides, the same quiet rhythm that stirs the seeds underground and wakes the dawn. This is not metaphor. It is the direct perception of truth, that the stillness you touch is the very essence of life itself. Many people hear emptiness and think it means absence, a cold, hollow void. But true emptiness is the opposite. It is fullness without form, radiant awareness that contains all things yet clings to none. When you rest in this stillness, you realize You are not a being inside the universe. You are the universe appearing as this breath, this body, this moment of knowing. In that recognition, fear loses its language. Even death becomes soft, because you have seen the place that was never born and never dies. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is life's purest pulse. It breathes the trees into being, moves the rivers, sings through the wind, and whispers through the space between one heartbeat and the next. This is the living silence that breathes through everything. The same silence that exists inside your chest right now. It is not waiting to be found. It is waiting to be noticed. Because the moment you notice, you realize. You were never apart from it. You were simply distracted by the noise of becoming. In deep stillness, you might notice something exquisite. Breath and awareness merge. There is no boundary between who knows and what is known. Awareness breathes itself. It moves not by effort, but by its own luminous gravity. And in that instant, you understand what ancient mystics meant when they said, "Be still and know that I am." The I here is not personal. It is the I that all things share, the one awareness appearing as countless faces, countless breaths. When you abide in this knowing, you are no longer seeking the divine. You are breathing as the divine. You are what God feels like when God becomes breath. From this stillness, life flows effortlessly. Actions arise not from thought, but from presence. The same way a flower opens when the sun touches it. When you live from the stillness that breathes you, you stop trying to manage life. You allow it to move through the intelligence of silence itself. And that silence knows exactly what to do. It paints galaxies, grows forests, heals wounds, and guides your steps without words. It does not rush. It does not doubt. It simply is. As the breath slows, the space between you and life dissolves. The body becomes light. The light becomes awareness. Awareness becomes everything. And in that moment, you realize there was never a separation to begin with. The inhale, the exhale, the stillness. They are not three. They are one continuum of being, one unbroken motion of love turning itself inside out to experience itself anew. This is the mystery the sages spoke of, where emptiness is not the opposite of fullness, but its eternal companion. When stillness deepens enough, even the witness fades. There is no observer left to say, "I am silent." There is only silence itself, self-luminous, self-aware, resting in its own infinite expanse. In that depth, breath continues, life continues, but you have vanished into the gentle radiance of being. And what remains is peace so vast, so intimate, that nothing can disturb it. It is not the peace you find. It is the peace that finds you when you stop searching. The space between breaths is not a void. It is fullness beyond form. In that stillness, the breath no longer moves. Awareness moves itself. When you touch this stillness, you understand. You were never breathing for survival. You were breathing so that the universe could taste itself through you. And in that sacred realization, there is nothing left to become. Only the stillness remains, breathing you, loving you, living itself as you. Every movement in existence follows a rhythm, a wave that rises, peaks, and rests. Even the stars breathe, expanding and contracting in silent cadence. Without the pause, nothing could endure. The pause is what gives life its balance, its renewal, It's grace. The breath is the teacher of this secret. It shows us that stillness is not the opposite of motion. It is the womb that gives motion meaning. When you discover the stillness between breaths, you begin to sense a universal truth. Everything alive depends on the wisdom of the pause. Life was never designed to be a straight line. It moves in cycles, like tides, like seasons, like the slow exhale of the cosmos. Even the heart pauses between beats, a sacred rest that allows it to keep beating. Without that moment of non-doing, the rhythm would collapse. This same law governs every aspect of life. Between every action, there is a stillness. Between every word, a space for listening. Between every thought, a gap of pure knowing. The pause is not a delay. It is the intelligence of existence itself, adjusting the next movement to align with harmony. When you live without pauses, you fall out of tune. You rush, react, and exhaust yourself, mistaking speed for direction and noise for meaning. But when you learn to pause, you move from reaction to response, from confusion to clarity, from survival to awareness. Inhale, creation. Exhale, release. Between them, wisdom. That brief silence between breaths is the same space that lives between cause and effect, intention and outcome, chaos and peace. It is there that consciousness decides what kind of world it will create next. When you bring awareness to that space, your actions begin to carry light. You speak slower, listen deeper, move cleaner. Because wisdom is born not from doing more, but from seeing more clearly. Each pause becomes a mirror reflecting your inner state. Are you acting from fear or presence, from habit or truth, from noise or knowing? The pause answers, quietly, honestly, without words. Look at nature. The earth pauses each night. The moon pauses between phases. Even sound itself needs silence to exist. Without stillness, light could not form shadows. Without darkness, the stars would not shine. In this dance of opposites, the pause is the meeting place, the sacred turning point where one becomes the other. When you align your life with this rhythm, you stop fighting the natural flow of existence. You realize that rest is not a luxury. It is participation in the cosmic balance. You don't need to retreat from the world to practice this wisdom. The world itself offers endless pauses. You only need to notice them. Before speaking, pause. Feel the breath resting in your chest. Let silence wash your words clean so they come from love, not reaction. Before deciding, pause. Let the mind settle, the emotion cool. In that stillness, the right action often reveals itself without struggle. Before judging, pause. Between perception and opinion lies the doorway of understanding. When you enter it, compassion awakens naturally. Before you sleep, pause to feel gratitude. Before you wake, pause to feel wonder. Between the two, you will find peace that never ends. This is how the breath teaches you to live, not by adding effort, but by deepening awareness. The pause is not passive. It is the birthplace of creation. All inspiration arises from silence. The painter sees the empty canvas before the first stroke. The composer listens into quiet before the first note. The mystic enters stillness before the next revelation unfolds. From that emptiness, form emerges effortlessly, fresh, alive, original. The same is true for you. When you stop forcing, when you allow the pause, life begins to move through you with clarity and purpose. You realize that what you called waiting was actually creation preparing itself in invisible ways. The seed rests in darkness before it bursts into bloom. The heart pauses between beats before it sings again. And you pause between breaths so the divine can rewrite your rhythm in its own time. In Buddhist wisdom, prajna means seeing directly, without distortion, without hurry. To live with prajna is to live with the awareness of pauses. When there is anger, pause. You will see the pain beneath it. When there is desire, pause. You will see the longing for wholeness. When there is confusion, pause. You will see the mind trying to control what was never its to control. This is how stillness becomes wisdom, by turning reaction into revelation. Each pause is an act of remembering that you are not the storm, you are the sky. Not the thought, but the awareness in which thought arises. If you listen closely, you will feel that even the planet breathes. There are moments when the air stands still, when the wind ceases, and the world holds its breath. Those moments are sacred. They are the Earth's meditation, a reminder that all life moves through cycles of becoming and being. When you walk in nature, walk as if you are part of that same breath. Pause when the wind pauses. Breathe when the ocean breathes. You will feel an ancient intelligence guiding you, a rhythm older than time. And then you will understand. The pause is not something you practice. It is what you are when you stop pretending to be anything else. Without the pause, there is no clarity. The breath teaches what wisdom has always known, to act from stillness. The more you trust the pause, the more your life becomes effortless. You begin to live as the breath itself, balancing motion and stillness, creation and surrender, sound and silence. You no longer chase wisdom, you breathe it. Because wisdom is not a thought, it is the living pause between all things. When you rest long enough in the stillness between breaths, a subtle recognition dawns. You were never separate from the rhythm of the universe. The same silence that lives between your inhales and exhales lives between the tides, between the pulse of stars, between one birth and another. Everything is breathing with you. You are not in the universe. You are the universe breathing itself into awareness. Every being, every element, every atom moves to the same rhythm, the sacred expansion and return. Galaxies spin outward, then drift toward stillness again. The ocean rises and falls, the moon waxes and wanes, the heart beats and pauses. All existence flows in this infinite inhale and exhale. The pause between them is where eternity listens. That pause is not an interruption. It is the timeless center through which all motion flows. When your breath slows into this rhythm, you begin to sense the vast body of life breathing through you. Imagine the cosmos inhaling through your lungs. Each breath you take draws in stardust and ancient light. Each exhale returns it to the infinite. You are a bridge of awareness through which the universe experiences its own continuity. The air you breathe has passed through mountains, trees, oceans, the laughter of children, the sighs of ancestors. Every molecule of breath is a carrier of memory, a whisper of creation. And between those whispers, silence. A silence that holds all stories, all lifetimes, all possibilities. When you return to that silence, you return to everything. In ordinary life, Time feels like a straight line, one moment chasing another. But in the space between breaths, time folds. It becomes a circle. Beginning and ending dissolve into each other. Past and future rest together in the same stillness. You begin to perceive the real nature of time, not as something that moves forward, but as a wave oscillating around the eternal now. This is the silent rhythm where creation and dissolution are one breath, where the Big Bang and this very moment are two ripples of the same ocean. When you walk, notice how the earth moves beneath your steps. It is breathing with you. When the wind brushes your face, it is the exhale of the trees, and your inhale completes their prayer. When the waves crash on the shore, they are the lungs of the planet, rising, falling, mirroring your own. You are not apart from these rhythms. They are not happening around you. They are happening as you. Every breath you take is a declaration of unity. Every pause you enter is the universe remembering itself through your stillness. Air, the breath that moves through you. Water, the flow of emotion, rising and falling. Fire, the pulse of the heart, giving warmth and light. Earth, the stillness that holds it all. All four are breathing one another into being. All four pause in the same gap, the still point of equilibrium. When you become aware of that equilibrium, you no longer cling to any element. You begin to live as the whole. The silence between breaths is where the elements meet and merge, where air becomes space, where matter becomes light. There comes a moment when you no longer seek stillness. You are stillness. The breath moves, the world moves, but you remain anchored in the silent rhythm beneath it all. This is what the sages called samadhi, what the mystics called union, what the poets called home. When you breathe in, you are inhaling the divine. When you breathe out, you are exhaling your devotion. And between them, the silence of perfect love. That silence is your truest self, unchanging, boundless, radiant. If you listen deeply, you can hear the rhythm everywhere. In the hum of electricity, in the pulse of distant stars, in the rise and fall of waves of light. It is a music beyond sound, a harmony of presence and absence, a symphony of being and stillness intertwined. The pause between breaths is not a rest from the song. It is the note that gives meaning to all others. Without that note, life's melody would lose its depth. With it, every sound becomes sacred. When you stay long enough in this awareness, you begin to see there was never a you breathing, and never a world to breathe in. There was only the one, breathing both into and out of itself. The inhale is manifestation, the exhale is dissolution, the pause is realization. And these three have always been happening together, in an eternal continuum of love. So breathe, not to survive, but to celebrate existence itself. Pause, not to escape, but to listen to the silence that sings you into being. Stay in the gap long enough, and you will see there was never a gap at all. Only oneness pretending to pause. When you live in harmony with this silent rhythm, you no longer try to balance your life. You are balance itself. You no longer seek peace. You are peace. Because the silence between breaths is the essence of all that is. The still heartbeat of the universe echoing quietly through every moment of your being. Between one breath and the next, there is a doorway you can always return to. It is not far away. It has never been. It is the quiet space behind your eyes, the soft stillness beneath your heartbeat, the pause that greets you each time the breath completes itself. That is where silence lives. After all the journeys, after all the seeking, you arrive, not at a distant heaven, but here. The inhale, the exhale, the pause. Each one was guiding you home, teaching you how to listen again. You thought silence was emptiness, but now you know. It is presence too vast to be spoken. It does not need your effort, your meditation, your words. It only asks for your gentle noticing. When you listen deeply, you can feel that everything, even the spaces between your thoughts, is breathing the same light. And that light, soft and golden, is the language of eternity. You do not need to retreat from the world to stay in touch with this silence. You can carry it into every word you speak, every step you take, every moment of your day. Pause before you answer. Pause before you react. Pause before you reach for the next thing. That single breath of awareness is the space between breaths, the one you discovered here. It is not separate from life. It is life, meeting itself again and again through you. Each time you pause, you open the doorway to wisdom. Each time you rest in silence, you allow the universe to breathe itself more clearly through you. When you truly live from this space, the ordinary becomes holy. The sound of a child's laughter, the wind against your face, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, they are no longer fleeting sensations. They are sacred movements within one eternal breath. Every pause, every silence, becomes a small resurrection, a reminder that even amid chaos, presence never leaves. You begin to see that love is not found in intensity, but in stillness, in the patient quiet that watches, accepts, and forgives. Sit for a moment now. Let the breath come naturally. Inhale, feel the universe entering you. Exhale, feel yourself returning to the universe. And between them, that soft, luminous pause. Stay there. Do you feel it? That silence is not empty. It is filled with awareness, with the hum of life too vast to be contained by sound. This is eternity, disguised as a single breath. And you are its witness and expression, its sound and its silence, its inhale and its release. If you listen closely, you might hear the silence speak. I have been here since the first breath of creation. I will be here after the last star fades. You were never lost, only distracted by sound. In that whisper, everything dissolves. There is no teacher, no seeker, no separation. Only one vast awareness breathing itself endlessly. Through galaxies, through leaves, through you. Between breaths, there is silence. In that silence, there is life. And in that life, there is you. Not as a person, but as the stillness that never left. The pause is not something you find in meditation. It is something that finds you in the middle of a breath, a smile, a heartbeat. And when it does, you will know. You are home. Home is not a place. It is the space where everything rests together. The seen and unseen, the spoken and unspoken, the inhale and the exhale. Between breaths, there is silence. In that silence, there is life. And in that life, there is you, the stillness that never left. Let this silence walk with you. Let it breathe your words, guide your hands, soften your heart. Because in the end, all that remains is one breath, one cosmos, and the timeless awareness that holds them both. Thank you for sharing this moment of stillness. If something inside you softened, even just a little, let it keep breathing through your life. Between each inhale and exhale, there is a space, quiet, infinite, alive. That space is you. That space is home. If this journey touched your heart, you may breathe with us again, here, in this gentle space of remembrance. Like, share, and subscribe, so the breath can reach more hearts still searching for peace in the noise. Free you. A home for your breath, your presence, your return to stillness.